Maya Chen pressed herself against the cold hallway wall as 3 students rushed past her, their designer bags swinging, their laughter echoing off the marble floors. They didn't even glance her way. To them, she was invisible. Just another shadow in the corner of the Westwood Music Conservatory. She clutched her worn backpack tighter and waited until their voices faded before moving toward the small janitor's closet at the end of the hall. This was her routine. Every single day after school, she'd take 2 buses to get here, to this place that smelled of expensive perfume and polished wood, where her mother worked cleaning floors that cost more per square foot than their entire month's rent. Inside the closet, Maya had created a small nest for herself, a folding chair, a tiny desk lamp, her homework and books stacked neatly in the corner. This was where she spent her evenings while her mother, Rosa, scrubbed toilets and mopped practice rooms for families who would never learn her name. Through the thin walls, Maya could hear it. The music. Always the music. Right now, someone was practicing Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. The notes drifted through the air like whispers, some confident, some hesitant. The student hit a wrong note, stopped, then started again from the beginning. Maya's fingers unconsciously mimicked the movement on her lap. She knew exactly where the mistake was. 3rd measure, left hand, the pinky should hit D-flat, not D natural. She opened her algebra textbook, but the equations blurred. The music was too beautiful, too distracting. It always was. Maya had long ago accepted that she couldn't concentrate on homework until later, until the students left, and the building fell quiet, except for the sound of her mother's vacuum cleaner humming through empty halls. Her phone buzzed. A text from her mom. Practice room 7 needs deep cleaning tonight. Might be late? There's leftovers in the fridge for dinner. Maya typed back a quick thumbs up and slipped her phone away. Late nights were normal. Her mother worked harder than anyone she knew, taking every extra shift, every additional cleaning job. Also, Maya could have a better life than she did. Also, maybe, someday, Maya could go to college. The Chopin stopped. Maya heard footsteps, then voices. She recognized one of them immediately. Victoria Ashford. You couldn't spend months in this building without learning that voice. Confident, commanding, always just a little bit louder than everyone else's. Did you see the showcase schedule? Victoria's voice carried through the wall. Daddy made sure I got the finale slot, obviously. Can you imagine anyone else closing the show? Another girl laughed. Are you really doing Rachmaninoff's 3rd? That's insane. Please. I've been playing it since I was 14. Mr. Davison said it's the most ambitious piece anyone's attempted at the showcase in 5 years. The scholarship's basically mine already. Maya felt that familiar twist in her stomach. Not quite jealousy. Something deeper. Something that felt like hunger. She'd watched Victoria practice that piece through the small window in the door. Watched her fingers fly across the keys, watched her make mistakes and have the luxury of a teacher right there to correct her, to guide her, to encourage her. What would that be like? To have someone teach you? To not have to figure everything out alone? Maya's father had taught her the basics when she was little. She could still remember sitting on his lap, his hands guiding hers across the keys of their old upright piano. Feel the music, Maya, he'd whisper. Don't just play the notes. Feel them. But that was before the cancer, before the medical bills that cost them everything, including that piano, before he died and left them with nothing but memories and a love for music that Maya couldn't shake no matter how impractical it was. Now, she taught herself. YouTube videos on her cracked phone screen, free sheet music downloaded from websites, and most importantly, watching, always watching. She'd memorized the layout of this building, knew which practice rooms had the best acoustics, which doors had the widest window gaps, where she could sit unnoticed and observe the lessons happening inside. The students called it a conservatory, but Maya thought of it as a museum. A place where beautiful things existed behind glass, where you could look but never touch, where girls like her mother cleaned up after girls like Victoria, and that was just how the world worked. Oh, God, Victoria's voice again. Closer now. Is that the cleaning lady's kid? Maya's heart stopped. She'd been so lost in thought she'd wandered out of the closet, standing in the hallway like an idiot. Now Victoria and 2 other girls stood 10 feet away, staring at her with those expressions. The ones that made Maya feel like she was something they'd stepped in. "She's always lurking around," one of the other girls said. "It's kind of creepy." "She's waiting for her mom," Victoria said, not unkindly, but not kindly either. Just stating a fact, like Maya was a package waiting to be picked up. "What's your name again?" Maya's throat felt dry. "Maya." "Right, Maya." Victoria adjusted her designer tote bag. "Do you go to school around here?" "Lincoln High." "Oh." The word carried volumes. Lincoln was the public school. The poor school. The school where kids like Maya went because they had no other choice. "That's nice." The other girls exchanged glances. Maya wanted to disappear into the floor. "Well, we have to practice," Victoria said, already turning away. "Try not to touch anything, okay? Some of these instruments are worth more than, well, you know." They walked away and Maya stood frozen in the hallway, her cheeks burning. She knew Victoria hadn't meant to be cruel. That was almost worse. The casual dismissal, the assumption that Maya wouldn't understand the value of things, that she didn't belong in this world of music and beauty and art. But she did understand. She understood more than they knew. That night, after the last student left and the building emptied, Maya finally emerged from her closet. Her mother was on the second floor, cleaning the practice rooms. Maya could hear the familiar sounds, the spray bottle, the cloth against wood, the soft humming her mother always did when she thought no one was listening. Maya walked down the hallway, past the photographs of famous alumni on the walls. Concert pianists, composers, people who'd learned their craft in these very rooms. She stopped in front of the large practice room, the one with the best piano. A Steinway grand, black and gleaming even in the dim emergency lighting. Through the window, she could see it waiting. Silent. Beautiful. Her fingers itched. She tried the door handle, knowing it would be locked. It always was. Only students had key cards. Only people who belonged here could touch the instruments after hours. Maya pressed her forehead against the glass and closed her eyes. In her mind, she played. Her fingers moved in the air, tracing out Claire de Lune, one of the pieces she'd taught herself from a scratchy recording and a PDF of sheet music. She could hear every note in her head, could feel where her hands should be, could sense the weight of the keys beneath her fingers, even though she was just touching air. "Maya," her mother's voice soft and concerned. "Baby, what are you doing?" Maya opened her eyes and turned. Rosa stood there in her cleaning uniform, her hair tied back, her face tired but gentle. Always gentle. "Just looking, Mama." Rosa walked over and put her arm around Maya's shoulders. They stood together, looking at the piano through the glass. "Your father would have loved this place," Rosa said quietly. "All this music, all this beauty." "Do you think he'd be disappointed?" Maya asked. "That I can't really play anymore?" "Oh, baby," Rosa squeezed her tighter. "You can play. I hear you on that keyboard in your room. You play all the time. It's not the same. A keyboard isn't a real piano." "No," Rosa admitted. "It's not. But someday, Maya, I'm saving. Every extra shift, every tip. Someday we'll get you a real piano again. I promise." Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. She knew her mother was saving. She also knew how expensive pianos were and how many other things they needed first, like rent and food, and the medical bills they were still paying off from her father's treatment. Someday was a beautiful word, but it was also a painful one. They walked home together that night, taking the bus through streets that got progressively shabbier until they reached their small apartment building with its flickering hallway lights and the smell of different dinners cooking behind thin walls. Maya ate leftover rice and practiced on her keyboard with headphones on so she wouldn't disturb the neighbors. And she dreamed of someday, of a piano that wasn't behind glass, of music that was hers to make, not just hers to witness. She had no idea that everything was about to change. 3 weeks before the annual showcase, the conservatory transformed into something different. The energy shifted. Students who normally treated practice rooms like social clubs suddenly became serious, their faces tight with concentration. The hallways filled with the sound of scales repeated endlessly, difficult passages played over and over until they were perfect. Maya noticed the change immediately. Even the way people walked was different, faster, more purposeful. The showcase wasn't just another recital. It was the event, the one that mattered. The one where college scouts attended, where the winner received a full scholarship to the Bradford Academy of Music, one of the most prestigious music schools in the country. For students like Victoria, it was a formality. She'd probably get into Bradford anyway, with her family's connections and money, but for others, this scholarship was everything, their only chance. Maya found herself staying later than usual, watching through windows as students rehearsed their showcase pieces. She saw the pressure on their faces, the way their teachers pushed them harder, demanded more. But she also saw something else, passion, pure, undiluted love for the music. Even the students she didn't particularly like seemed to transform when they played their showcase pieces. The music made them real. Victoria was practicing Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 3. Everyone knew it. She mentioned it constantly, and honestly, she had reason to be proud. It was one of the most difficult piano pieces ever written. Rachmaninoff himself had called it a monster. Most pianists spent years working up to it. Maya had watched Victoria practice it dozens of times now. She knew every movement, every challenging passage, every place where Victoria struggled. The cadenza in the first movement, the octave runs in the third. Maya's fingers would twitch, wanting to show her the easier fingering, the way to make that transition smoother. But of course she never did. She just watched and learned. One Thursday evening, Maya made a mistake. She got too comfortable, too relaxed. She'd been sitting on the floor outside practice room 5, her back against the wall, doing her homework while Victoria rehearsed inside. The music was so beautiful that Maya forgot to be invisible. When Victoria hit a particularly difficult passage perfectly, Maya smiled and whispered to herself, "Yes, that's it." The music stopped abruptly. The door swung open. Victoria stood there, and she wasn't alone. 2 of her friends were with her, both holding violin cases. All 3 stared down at Maya, who scrambled to gather her scattered papers. "Were you listening to me practice?" Victoria asked. Her voice wasn't angry exactly. More surprised, confused. "I'm sorry," Maya stammered, shoving papers into her backpack. "I was just doing homework." "I wasn't." "She's always out here," one of Victoria's friends said. A girl named Ashley with perfect blonde hair. "I've seen her. Just sitting in the hallways." "I'm waiting for my mom," Maya explained, her face hot. "She works late, So you just hang around listening to us practice?" Victoria crossed her arms. "That's kind of weird, don't you think?" "I'm not trying to bother anyone. Maya stopped. How could she explain that the music was the only beautiful thing in her day? That listening to them practice was the closest she'd get to being part of this world. The third girl, someone Maya didn't know, looked at her with something like pity. "Do you even understand what you're hearing? Do you know what piece that was?" Maya hesitated. She knew she should just shake her head, apologize again, leave. But something in her couldn't let it go. Rachmaninoff. Piano Concerto No. 3 in D minor. "First movement?" All 3 girls stared at her. "How do you know that?" Victoria asked slowly. I've heard you practice it." "A lot," Ashley laughed. Not a mean laugh exactly, but not kind either. "Wait, so you've been sitting out here every time Victoria practices?" "For weeks?" "I'm not stalking her or anything," Maya said quickly. "I'm just here." "In the building." "And the music?" "The music what?" Victoria asked. "It's beautiful," Maya said quietly. "You're really good." For a moment, something flickered across Victoria's face. "But then Ashley ruined it." "This is so weird," Ashley said, pulling out her phone. "The janitor's daughter is obsessed with you, Victoria." "I'm not obsessed with anyone," Maya said, her voice sharper than she intended. "I just appreciate music." "Oh, you appreciate music," the third girl said, making it sound ridiculous. "Do you play?" Maya's throat tightened. This was dangerous territory. A little. The laughter that erupted made Maya want to sink through the floor. "Oh my God!" Ashley wheezed. "The cleaning lady's daughter plays piano." "This is amazing. What do you play on?" the third girl asked, genuinely curious now. "Do you have a piano?" "A keyboard," Maya admitted. More laughter. Softer, but somehow worse. "A keyboard," Victoria repeated. Like one of those cheap electronic ones? Maya nodded, clutching her backpack like a shield. That's not the same thing, Ashley said, not unkindly, but matter-of-factly. Playing a real piano is completely different. The touch, the sound, the pedals. You can't learn proper technique on a keyboard. I know, Maya whispered. Victoria was studying her now, and Maya couldn't read her expression. What do you play? On your keyboard? Maya should have said something simple. Chopsticks, heart and soul, beginner stuff. Instead, stupidly, honestly, she said, right now I'm working on Clair de Lune and some Chopin nocturnes. The silence that followed was worse than the laughter. Then Victoria smiled. Not a warm smile, a smile that made Maya's stomach drop. You're working on Debussy and Chopin, Victoria said slowly. On a keyboard. By yourself. I watch videos, Maya said defensively. And I listen to us, Ashley finished. You listen to us practice and then you go home and try to copy it on your little keyboard. That's actually kind of sad, the third girl said. It's not sad, Victoria said. And for a moment Maya thought she might defend her. It's just unrealistic. Maya, do you know how long I've been taking lessons? Since I was 4. Private lessons 3 times a week with teachers who charge $200 an hour. I've been to summer intensives at Juilliard. I've performed at Carnegie Hall. And I still have to practice 4 hours every single day to be good enough for the showcase. Maya said nothing. What could she say? So the idea that you could just teach yourself by watching through doors and listening through walls? Victoria shook her head. I'm sorry, but that's not how music works. Real music takes dedication, training, resources. You can't just pick it up from YouTube videos. I wasn't saying I was as good as you, Maya said, her voice barely audible. Good, Victoria said. Then more gently, look, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm being realistic. This world, she gestured around the conservatory, it's not for people like, it requires a certain level of commitment, financial commitment. You need the right instrument, the right teachers, the right opportunities. Wanting it isn't enough. People like you. She hadn't said it, but Maya heard it anyway. Maybe you should focus on things that are more, Ashley searched for the word, attainable. For your situation. Maya felt something crack inside her chest. Right, okay. She stood up, her legs shaky. She needed to leave before they saw her cry. Don't be upset, Victoria called after her. I'm just trying to help. You seem like a nice girl, but you have to be realistic about your life. Maya walked quickly down the hallway, past the photographs of famous alumni, past the trophy cases, past all the symbols of a world she would never belong to. She pushed through the bathroom door and locked herself in a stall. Then she let herself cry. Not loud, gasping sobs. Quiet ones. The kind you learn to cry when you can't afford to fall apart. When you have to hold yourself together because nobody else will do it for you. She pulled out her phone and looked at her wallpaper. A photo of her father at a piano, his hands frozen mid-performance, his face lit up with pure joy. He'd been playing at a church fundraiser, one of the few times they'd had access to a real piano. Maya had been 7, and she'd thought her father was magic. I miss you, Dad, she whispered to the photo. I miss you so much. She heard the bathroom door open. Footsteps. Then her mother's voice, worried. Maya, baby, are you in here? Maya wiped her eyes quickly. Yeah, Mama, I'm fine. You're not fine. Come out, please. Maya unlocked the stall. Her mother stood there in her cleaning uniform, her face creased with concern. She took one look at Maya and pulled her into a hug. What happened? Maya told her everything. The words tumbled out between tears. Victoria's words, Ashley's laughter, the way they'd made her feel small and stupid and wrong for even dreaming about music. Rosa held her tighter. Baby, those girls don't know what they're talking about. But they're right, Mama. I don't have what they have. I can't afford lessons or a real piano or any of it. I'm kidding myself thinking I could ever... Your father learned piano in a village in the Philippines with an old upright that was missing keys, Rosa said firmly. He taught himself from library books and borrowed sheet music. And he was brilliant. You have his gift, Maya. I know you do. Having a gift doesn't matter if you can't use it. Rosa pulled back and looked at her daughter's face. Then we'll find a way. I don't know how yet, but we will. They stood in that bathroom for a long time, holding each other in the harsh fluorescent light, while somewhere in the building someone practiced scales, the notes drifting through the walls like a promise or a taunt. Maya couldn't tell which. When they finally left that night, Maya saw a flyer on the bulletin board by the entrance. Annual showcase, open to all community members. Audition by application. She stared at those words. Community members. Technically, she was a community member. Her mother worked here. They were here every day, but she'd never belong. Not really. Maya walked past the flyer without taking one, but she couldn't stop thinking about it all the way home. For 3 days after the bathroom incident, Maya avoided everyone at the conservatory. She stayed in the janitor's closet with her headphones on, doing homework and pretending the world outside didn't exist. She stopped watching through the practice room windows. She stopped listening at doors. She tried to make herself smaller, more invisible than before, but the music still found her. It always did. It leaked through walls and floors, filled the hallways, lived in the air itself. You couldn't escape it in a place like this, even if you wanted to. On the 4th day, her mother noticed something was wrong. They were eating dinner in their small apartment, leftover chicken and rice reheated from the night before. Maya pushed the food around her plate without really eating. "You've been quiet," Rosa said gently. "More quiet than usual." "I'm fine, Mama." "You're not fine. You haven't touched your keyboard all week. I don't even hear you humming anymore." Maya set down her fork. "What's the point?" Victoria was right. "I'm just fooling myself. I don't have the training or the money or the connections. Playing on a cheap keyboard in my bedroom isn't real music." Rosa was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood up and walked to her bedroom. When she came back, she was holding something Maya hadn't seen in years. "A small wooden box worn smooth with age. Your father gave this to me the day you were born," Rosa said, opening it. Inside was a folded piece of paper, yellowed at the edges. "It's a letter he wrote to you. He said I should give it to you when you were old enough to understand." Maya's hands trembled as she took the letter. Her father's handwriting, slightly messy but confident, filled the page. "My dearest Maya," it began. "If you're reading this, it means I'm gone, and you're old enough to hear some truths about music and life. I grew up with nothing, less than nothing. My family couldn't afford shoes, let alone piano lessons. But I loved music more than I loved breathing. So I found ways. I practiced on tabletops, imagining keys beneath my fingers. I snuck into churches to touch their pianos. I learned by listening, by watching, by refusing to believe that music belonged only to rich people. The world will tell you that art is a luxury, that it's only for people who can afford it. Don't believe them. Music doesn't care how much money you have. It only cares if you have something to say. You carry my blood, and that means you carry my love for music. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't belong. The piano doesn't ask for your bank account. It only asks for your heart. Play, Maya, always play. Even when it's hard. Even when people say you can't. Play for yourself. Play for me. Play because the world needs beauty. And you have beauty inside you. All my love, Dad." Maya read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Her mother sat beside her, crying too. "He believed in you before you were even born," Rosa whispered. "And I believe in you now. I see you studying those students, memorizing everything. I know you're teaching yourself. I hear you at night working through pieces on that keyboard. You're not fooling yourself, baby. You're doing what your father did. You're finding a way." Something shifted in Maya's chest. Not quite hope. Something fiercer. Something that felt like determination. "The showcase," Maya said slowly. "The flyer said it's open to community members." Rosa nodded. "I saw that. Do you think... Could I actually..." "Yes," Rosa said firmly. "Yes, I think you could." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her father's letter on her nightstand. The showcase was in 5 days. 5 days to prepare. 5 days to find the courage to put herself out there in front of everyone who'd ever dismissed her. The next morning at school, Maya couldn't concentrate. Her teachers' voices became background noise. All she could think about was music. During lunch, she sat alone in the library and filled out the application on her phone. Name, contact information. Piece to be performed. Her finger hovered over the submit button for 10 full minutes. Then she pressed it. 2 days later, disaster struck the conservatory. Or what Mr. Davison called a disaster. A pipe burst in the main performance hall, flooding the space with 3 inches of water. Maya and her mother arrived to chaos. Students standing around in worried clusters. Teachers rushing back and forth with clipboards. Mr. Davison in the center of it all, his usually calm face tight with stress. "We can't possibly hold the showcase there," he was saying to another teacher. "The water damage is extensive. We'll need to use the smaller recital hall. It only seats 150, but it's our only option." Maya felt her stomach drop. She'd submitted her application to perform in the big hall, where she could blend into the crowd, where maybe her presence wouldn't be such a big deal. The recital hall was intimate, small. There would be no hiding there. She found Mr. Davison later that afternoon. He was in his office, surrounded by paperwork, looking exhausted. "Excuse me?" Maya said quietly from the doorway. He looked up, and for a moment he didn't seem to recognize her. Then his face softened. "You're Rosa's daughter, aren't you?" "Yes, sir. Maya. What can I do for you, Maya?" She almost chickened out. Almost turned around and left. But she thought of her father's letter. "Play, Maya. Always play." I submitted an application. For the showcase. But with everything that happened with the hall, I understand if there's no room for... You applied to perform? Mr. Davison looked surprised. He shuffled through papers on his desk and found her application. "Maya Chen, you're performing... You left the piece selection blank?" "I wasn't sure what would be appropriate," Maya admitted. "I know I'm not a regular student here." Mr. Davison studied her for a long moment. "Your mother has worked here for, 2 years now?" "Almost 3. She's one of our best employees. Always kind, always thorough. And I've seen you here doing your homework in the halls. You're here almost as much as the students." He smiled slightly. "What made you want to perform in the showcase?" Maya chose her words carefully. "My father was a pianist. He passed away when I was young. He taught me some basics before he died. I've been teaching myself since then. I know I'm not as trained as the other performers, but I thought maybe I could play something for him, for my mom. Just once, on a real piano, in front of people." Something in Mr. Davison's expression changed, softened further. "What would you play?" "I was thinking maybe something by Chopin or Debussy, something that means something personal to me." He nodded slowly. "The schedule is tight now with the venue change, but I think we can fit you in." "How about the second slot? Right after the opening performance?" Maya's heart hammered. "Really? Really?" "But Maya, you should know, this audience will include music critics, college scouts, and people who know music very well. They'll have high expectations." "I understand. Do you have something to wear?" "The dress code is formal." Maya hesitated. She didn't. She had exactly one dress, and it was from a thrift store, slightly too big, not exactly showcase appropriate. But she nodded anyway. "I'll figure something out." After Mr. Davison confirmed her spot, Maya felt like she was floating. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. She was going to perform, then reality crashed back. She had 3 days to prepare, 3 days to find a dress, 3 days to work up the courage, and she still hadn't practiced on a real piano in years. That night, after all the students left and her mother finished the main cleaning, Maya made a decision. She found Rosa in the supply closet. "Mama, can I borrow your keys?" Rosa looked at her daughter's determined face. "What are you planning?" "I need to practice. On a real piano, just once before the showcase. I need to know how it feels. Baby, if you get caught, I won't get caught. Everyone's gone. It's just us." Rosa hesitated, then slowly pulled out her key ring. She removed the master key and placed it in Maya's palm. 1 hour. That's it. "And if anyone comes, you leave immediately." Maya kissed her mother's cheek and ran to the recital hall, the key clutched tight in her hand. The room was dark except for the emergency exit lights. The Steinway grand piano sat on the stage like a sleeping giant. Maya's hands shook as she unlocked the door and slipped inside. She'd imagined this moment 1,000 times. Walking up to a real piano, sitting on the bench, lifting the fallboard to reveal the keys. But nothing prepared her for actually doing it. The bench was smooth and solid beneath her. The keys were ivory and ebony, perfectly weighted, each one responding to the slightest touch. This wasn't her cheap keyboard with its plastic keys and tinny speakers. This was a real instrument, a six-figure instrument, the kind of piano concert pianists played in symphonies. Maya placed her hands on the keys and froze. What if she'd forgotten? What if all those hours on her keyboard hadn't prepared her at all? What if Victoria was right and you couldn't learn real piano without real training? She closed her eyes and thought of her father. Felt him sitting beside her, like he used to when she was little, his hands guiding hers, his voice in her ear. Feel the music, Maya. Don't just play the notes. Feel them. She pressed down on middle C. The sound that emerged was pure and clear, and so beautiful it made her chest ache. Nothing like her keyboard. Nothing like anything she'd ever heard up close. The note hung in the air, resonating, filling the entire hall with just one key. Maya's other hand joined the first. Then her feet found the pedals. And she began to play. She started with something simple, a scale, then a chord progression. Her fingers remembered. The muscle memory was there, buried beneath years of plastic keys and silent practice. Then she played Clair de Lune. The Debussy piece flowed from her fingers like it had been waiting there all along. Every note she'd practiced in her bedroom, every passage she'd worked through in her head while watching through practice room windows, it all came together. The piano responded to her touch, sang with her, breathed with her. She didn't hear the door open. Didn't hear the footsteps. Didn't know anyone was there until she finished the piece and heard soft applause. Maya spun around, her heart in her throat. Mr. Davison stood in the doorway, his briefcase in hand. He'd clearly been about to leave for the night when he heard the music. "I'm sorry," Maya gasped. "I know I shouldn't be here. I just needed to practice. I'm so sorry." "How long have you been playing?" he asked quietly. "My whole life, but not on a real piano. Not since my dad died. And you taught yourself? Everything I just heard?" Maya nodded miserably, waiting to be kicked out, waiting for him to revoke her showcase invitation. Instead, Mr. Davison set down his briefcase and walked closer. "Play something else." "What?" "Play something else. Anything you want." Maya turned back to the piano, her mind blank with panic. Then she thought of her mother, working late every night. She thought of her father's letter. She thought of Victoria's words in the hallway, and she played Rachmaninoff. Not Victoria's piece. That would have been too obvious, too confrontational. Instead, Maya played the second movement of Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, the one her father used to hum while cooking dinner, the one that always made her mother cry. Her fingers found the opening notes, soft and melancholy. The piece was technically demanding, but emotionally devastating. It required more than just skill. It required understanding, loss, hope. All the things Maya had been carrying inside her for years. She poured everything into those keys. Every lonely night in the janitor's closet. Every moment of watching through windows at a world she couldn't enter. Every memory of her father's hands on hers. Every sacrifice her mother had made. It all flowed through her fingers into the piano, and the piano gave it back transformed into something beautiful. When she finished, silence filled the hall. Then Mr. Davison spoke, his voice rough with emotion. "Maya, that was extraordinary." She turned to face him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm sorry I broke in. I just needed—" "You didn't break in. Your mother has keys. You're here every day. You belong here as much as anyone." He sat down in one of the front row seats. "How did you learn to play like that?" "I watch, I listen. I practice on my keyboard at home. I know it's not the same as real lessons, but—" "Who taught you that Rachmaninoff piece?" "No one. I found a recording online." "And sheet music. I've been working on it for about 8 months. Mr. Davison shook his head in disbelief. 8 months. Maya, most students spend years with a teacher before they can tackle Rachmaninoff. What you just played, that level of interpretation, that emotional depth, that's not something you can learn from a video. My dad always said music was about feeling, not just technique. Your father was right." Mr. Davison stood up. "I want you to play the Rachmaninoff at the showcase." Maya's stomach dropped. "But I told you I'd play Debussy, and the Rachmaninoff is so long it's a whole concerto movement. The second movement is only about 10 minutes. We can make it work. Maya, trust me on this. Play the Rachmaninoff." That night, Maya could barely sleep. She practiced in her head, her fingers moving on invisible keys. The showcase was in 2 days. 2 days to prepare mentally for the biggest moment of her life. The next morning, her mother surprised her. Rosa came home from an early cleaning job carrying a garment bag. "What's that?" Maya asked. "Open it." Inside was a dress. Not new, but beautiful. Simple black, elegant, exactly the kind of thing a performer would wear. Maya touched the fabric carefully. "Mama, we can't afford this. Mrs. Henderson from the church had it in her closet. Her daughter wore it to a recital years ago. She's lending it to you." Rosa's eyes were bright. "Try it on." The dress fit perfectly. Maya looked at herself in the bathroom mirror and barely recognized the girl staring back. She looked like she belonged on a stage. Like she was a real musician. "You look just like your father did before his performances," Rosa whispered. "So beautiful. So ready." The day of the showcase arrived too fast and not fast enough. Maya felt like she might throw up all morning. She couldn't eat breakfast. Couldn't sit still. Couldn't think about anything except the piano and the audience and everything that could go wrong. "What if I forget the notes?" she asked her mother for the 10th time. "You won't." "What if my hands shake too much?" "They won't." "What if everyone laughs?" Rosa took her daughter's face in both hands. "Then they're idiots who don't understand real music." "But they won't laugh, baby. You're going to be amazing." They arrived at the conservatory 2 hours early. The recital hall was already buzzing with activity. Students in formal wear doing vocal warm-ups in the hallways, parents checking programs, flowers being delivered, camera equipment being set up. Maya felt desperately out of place in her borrowed dress. Then she saw Victoria. Victoria looked stunning as expected. A designer gown, probably custom-made. Professional makeup. Her hair styled perfectly. She was surrounded by her parents and friends, everyone congratulating her on her upcoming performance. Then Victoria saw Maya. Their eyes met across the hallway. For a moment, neither moved. Then Victoria said something to her parents and walked over. Maya braced herself for more condescension. More reminders that she didn't belong. Instead, Victoria said quietly, "I heard you're performing tonight." "Second slot?" "Yes." "What are you playing?" Maya hesitated. "Rachmaninoff. The second movement of the Piano Concerto No. 2. Victoria's eyes widened. That's a serious piece, I know. I didn't think you were actually serious about playing. I thought you were just... Victoria trailed off, looking uncomfortable. "Look, what I said the other day, about you being unrealistic. That wasn't fair." Maya didn't know what to say. "I was being a snob," Victoria continued. "My mom pointed it out after she heard about it. She said I was acting like my grandmother who thinks music should only be for rich people. I don't want to be like that." She took a breath. "So I'm sorry for what I said, and for my friends. We were cruel." "Okay," Maya said softly, "and good luck tonight." "I mean it," Victoria smiled, a real smile this time. "I hope you do well." She walked away before Maya could respond. Ashley, standing nearby, gave Maya an awkward little wave that might have been an apology or just acknowledgement. Maya waved back, too stunned to do much else. An hour later, the hall was packed. Every seat filled. Maya peeked through the stage door curtain and felt her heart hammering. She recognized some faces. Mr. Davison in the front row. Her mother sitting in the third row, dressed in her nicest clothes, clutching a program like it was made of gold. Some of the regular students and their families, but there were also strangers. Important-looking people with notepads, a woman with a press badge, men in expensive suits who looked like they judged music for a living. 5 minutes, someone called. Maya's hands were shaking. She pressed them against her dress, trying to steady them. What was she doing? She was a self-taught kid with a keyboard. These people were professionals. They'd know immediately that she didn't belong here. The opening performer, a violinist, finished to enthusiastic applause. Then Mr. Davison walked onto the stage. "Our next performer is someone special," he said into the microphone. "She's not a regular student here, but she's been part of our conservatory family for years. Her mother, Rosa, works here, and Maya has spent countless hours in these halls, falling in love with music. She's a self-taught pianist who learned by watching, listening, and refusing to believe that music belonged only to people who could afford lessons. Tonight she's playing Rachmaninoff's Piano Concerto No. 2, second movement. Please welcome Maya Chen. The applause was polite but confused. People whispered to each other. Who was this girl? Why was a janitor's daughter performing at the showcase? Maya walked onto the stage on legs that felt like water. The stage lights were hot and blinding. She couldn't see individual faces anymore, just a dark mass of people all watching her, judging her. Waiting for her to fail, she sat at the piano bench, adjusted her position, placed her hands on the keys. Then she looked up and found her mother in the third row. Rosa was crying already, her hands clasped together like she was praying. She mouthed something. "I love you." Maya closed her eyes. She thought of her father, felt his presence beside her, like he'd been there all along, waiting for this moment. She began to play. The opening notes were soft, almost fragile. The melody emerged slowly, like something waking up. This was the beautiful thing about the second movement. It started gentle, vulnerable. It asked the audience to lean in, to listen carefully. Maya's nerves began to fade. The audience disappeared. The stage disappeared. There was only the music and the piano and the conversation happening between them. Her fingers found every note without thinking. The muscle memory from hundreds of hours of practice took over, but it wasn't just muscle memory. It was understanding. She knew this piece in her bones, knew what Rachmaninoff had been trying to say, knew the longing in every phrase, the hope struggling against sadness, the beauty fighting through pain. She thought of her father playing in that church, his face lit with joy. She thought of her mother cleaning floors so Maya could have a better life. She thought of all the times she'd watched through windows, dreaming of this moment, and she played all of it. Every emotion, every memory, every dream. The piece built slowly, the melody growing stronger, more insistent. Her hands moved across the keys in complex patterns, octaves and arpeggios flowing together. The piano sang beneath her fingers, responding to every subtle shift in pressure, every emotional nuance. She reached the climax of the movement, the part where the melody soared and she felt something break open inside her. She wasn't just playing notes anymore. She was telling her story, her father's story, her mother's story, the story of everyone who'd ever loved something they couldn't have, who'd ever dreamed bigger than their circumstances allowed. The final notes came too soon. She let them fade naturally, her hands still resting on the keys, her eyes still closed. For just a moment, there was perfect silence. Then the applause exploded. Maya opened her eyes, startled. People weren't just clapping. They were standing. A standing ovation. She saw her mother in the third row, sobbing openly, clapping so hard her hands must have hurt. She saw Mr. Davison with tears on his cheeks. She saw Victoria standing and clapping with genuine respect on her face. The woman with the press badge was writing frantically in her notebook. The important-looking people were nodding to each other, having urgent, whispered conversations. Maya stood up and bowed, her own tears falling freely now. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. She'd played on a real piano in front of a real audience, and they'd heard her. Really heard her. Backstage, she was immediately surrounded. Mr. Davison hugged her, something he probably never did with students. That was remarkable, Maya, truly remarkable. Her mother pushed through the crowd and wrapped her in the tightest hug of her life. "Your father would be so proud." "So proud, baby." Then the woman with the press badge approached. "Maya Chen, I'm Dr. Patricia Morrison. I run the scholarship program at Bradford Academy." She handed Maya a business card. "I'd like to talk to you about our summer intensive program. Full scholarship, if you're interested." Maya stared at the card, unable to process the words. "And I'm going to write about you," the woman continued, "about self-taught musicians and breaking down barriers in classical music. Would you be willing to be interviewed?" Before Maya could answer, two more people approached with similar offers. A spot in a young musicians program, an invitation to audition for a prestigious competition. Opportunities Maya had never even dreamed of. The rest of the showcase passed in a blur. Victoria performed her Rachmaninoff beautifully, technically perfect, and Maya applauded genuinely. Other students played. The scholarship winner was announced. Victoria won, as expected, but people kept coming up to Maya afterwards, kept asking her questions. kept telling her that her performance was the highlight of the night. Late that evening, after everyone had left and the hall was being cleaned, Maya and her mother sat together in the empty recital hall. "What happens now?" Maya asked. "Now?" Rosa smiled. "Now you see where this takes you. You take that scholarship Dr. Morrison offered. You practice. You keep growing. I'm scared, Mama. What if I'm not good enough? What if tonight was just luck?" It wasn't luck. It was years of hard work and love and refusing to give up. Rosa took her daughter's hand. "Your father used to say that music chooses its people. It doesn't care about money or education or background. It just finds the people who need it most, who understand it deepest. Music chose you, Maya. Don't be afraid of that. Honor it." Maya looked at the piano on the stage, still sitting there in the dim emergency lighting. She thought about everything that had led to this moment. The losses and the struggles, the watching through windows, the practicing on a cheap keyboard, the believing even when everyone said she couldn't. "Can I play one more time?" she asked. "Just for us?" "Of course." Maya walked onto the stage and sat at the piano. She didn't play Rachmaninoff this time. She played something simple, a lullaby her father used to play when she was little. The first thing he'd ever taught her. Her mother hummed along from the audience, and for just a few minutes, it felt like her father was there too, listening, proud, finally at peace knowing his daughter had found her way to the music. The notes echoed through the empty hall, and Maya Chen, the janitor's daughter, the self-taught pianist, the girl who'd learned to play by watching through windows, finally understood what her father had meant all along. Music didn't belong to rich people or people with fancy training. Music belonged to anyone who loved it enough to claim it, and she had claimed it. Finally, completely, undeniably, she belonged here. She always had.